This is Blood and Firewater, a true crime comedy discussion type podcast. We shoot tequila and chase it with a case of murder. Just as a disclaimer, this podcast contains mature content not suitable for all ages, so listener discretion is advised. Oh, you gave me another shot.
You already took a shot?
I didn't.
Oh. Yeah.
I did not.
All right, so for... What was it, episode 5?
This is episode 5.
Oh,
How
man.
exciting.
We're getting up there. We're
all
like
the way up.
100 away from 105.
We're popping.
So, like, I feel like the first 100 episodes are the hardest. And then, like, after 105, you're like, this is just something I do now.
Yeah, 100 is a lot. It's oddly terrifying because I was like, wait, he just went 5 to 105? Like, wait.
It's a weird number. I get it. It's fun.
All right.
So, for today's case, we are drinking... Oh, shit.
No.
I turned the bottle around.
Where is it?
It's over there. I was supposed to be able to see the bottle.
Over where?
Right.
Oh. You had it on, like, a display or something? You want to take a picture of that later? Instagram
I wouldn't. It's not that great.
Yeah.
So for today's case, we're drinking Old Camp Peach and Pecan or Pecan?
Pecan?
Which one is it?
Oh, let's argue.
All right.
I say pecan.
Pecan. It just sounds more natural to me.
Sounds French. It sounds... Oh, no. Yeah, like, no.
So Old Camp Peach and Pecan whiskey. It's got a lot going on.
We have a shot here and a couple beers, but I don't want that pecan shit in my mouth.
I guess we'll
Bro.
I guess we'll go ahead and cheers it.
All right.
and try it out.
Or the microphone. You sure?
It tastes like wood. Like, I'd imagine, like, if I...
It tastes like as if, like some kind of...
It tastes like a better Fireball.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it tastes like...
Because Fireball is terrible. But that's not terrible. But it tastes like Fireball.
It tastes like... Okay, I know what I was going to say. It tastes like a really bad breakfast. like I was
really
trying...
burnt French toast.
Really bad. It's like you aren't at home eating the breakfast that you would cook.
I can't taste the peach, though. The peach is good.
That's where
and then there's
bad,
like burnt sandalwood.
Yeah, that's where the
aftertaste.
bad kicks in. That peach.
It's when you start breathing. Once that oxygen like hits that flavor, and you're like, your smell, your sense of smell is stronger than your sense of taste.
No shade. We are not this.
No,
we are glad.
I'll tell you when it's terrible.
Aww.
It's not terrible.
No shade.
I wouldn't drink it again. I definitely wouldn't pay for it again.
Right? No, if somebody had it.
They're like, if I'm in a liquor store, I'm probably not going to drink that.
No.
It's not that bad. Now that that's out the way, we'll go into tonight's case or tonight's whatever
evening,
whatever time of day.
Good evening
that you're listening to this. My tonight's case takes place on November 22nd, 1965, in a small suburb of Aiea in Honolulu, Hawaii. This is where a young mother, Maggie Young, took the lives of her 5 children. We don't know if Maggie was short for something else, maybe just a nickname, but we're going to go with Maggie because that's what we got.
So, do Hawaiians celebrate Thanksgiving?
Well, this is a holiday case to me because it being so close to Thanksgiving, but by Hawaiians' deep-rooted history and being like an Asian culture, Thanksgiving by mainland standards aren't as widely celebrated there.
Okay.
They actually have their own day of thanks with no credit given to the Puritans. Don't get me started about the Puritans.
I was just going to tell you, remember how I told you I was going to look exactly what Puritans were? I kind of need you to re-explain.
Don't get me started.
I mean...
They celebrated their own thing for the entire season, honoring the god Lono, who is associated with fertility, agriculture, rainfall, music, and peace.
That sounds like one hell of a Thanksgiving to me.
It sounds way better than the Thanksgiving we got.
Right, I mean.
Regardless, if you're looking for turkey and stuffing, you can still find it in Hawaii, but you won't find your grandma's macaroni and cheese.
There's no turkeys in Hawaii. So, like, I wonder what they have to go through to, like, fucking get a turkey.
I mean, I don't...
What is Thanksgiving without a turkey? And you don't see turkeys.
It's like having...
a goblin around Hawaii.
I mean, what's the traditional dinner for Christmas? If a
the
turkey...
same shit is for Thanksgiving. That's why
why
we're making 2 broccoli casseroles, because they're both okay.
I feel like given the region for a turkey, it's probably overpopulated.
What kind of meat do you eat around Christmas?
Ham.
And what kind of meat do you eat around Thanksgiving? Ham.
Turkey.
Well, yeah, I don't even eat ham, so I can't even agree with you.
Like, you heard the Christmas ham, just like you heard the Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah.
So,
okay. I mean, why do you keep putting things like that? Like, it sounds so right. Like, and I've heard it somewhere else.
Right.
So.
Maggie and James Young lived with their 5 young children northwest area of the main city of Honolulu. The family consisted of 4 daughters, Jessica 8 months, Jeanette 2, Judith 3, and Janice 5, and her only son, James Frank Jr., who was 8.
Bruh, she was pregnant for like 5 years.
That's a lot of pregnancies.
Yeah, I mean, after the 3rd kid, I was like, you're still going?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them.
9 months. I didn't even do 9 months. Like,
Maggie was born in 1927, and very little is reported about her, and very little is known about her personal life. Maggie was very nice, and her children were very well behaved, but after the birth of her youngest child, a neighbor named Jessica began to see changes in Maggie's behavior. Like, okay, so outside of let's say you live in Hawaii, all right? Like, everybody that lives where you live probably goes to the same grocery store, probably goes to the same beaches, this, that, and the other, all right?
all right.
So, I'd imagine, like, your neighbor, like, she probably knew her, a lot more, but, like, given only so much about this case, because, like, I've never heard of this. Like, this is my first time, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. According to her husband, Maggie was sent to mental institutions several times the last few months leading up to the murders. According to her husband, James, Maggie was sent to a mental institution several times the last few months leading up to the murders.
There's a red flag.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
I'm not going to give you 5 kids and be like, I think you're crazy, but
I know
there's diapers in here.
Yeah, and I got this job where I got to be gone.
James would describe Maggie's behavior after all the children had been born as a very slow down slope into signs of depression. She had an erratic sleep schedule. She stopped taking care of herself, and after months of deterioration, Maggie was no longer able to take care of her younger children.
That literally sounds like signs of postpartum. I mean, don't ask me. I've only had twins once in my life, but that sounds like the bitch just went downwards after that last kid. Like, I can't do this no more.
I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm giving you all the signs here.
Here.
Like, here.
Do you need it to be more than several? Do you want this to be all the time? Like, picking me up, like you dropping me off at school, but it's a mental institution.
Maggie left the care for her younger children to her 2 older adult children she had from a previous marriage.
Oh, so she had another husband, but he was just out of the picture? She had a whole nother man?
Yeah.
And 2 other kids?
Well, I mean, the 60s was a rough time.
That's 7 kids now.
When they were left in the care of Maggie, James would come home from long missions in the Air Force to find children dirty and diapers full.
How is neglect still occurring if the younger kids were in the care of the unnamed adult children. Like, they're changing the shit diapers.
Well, okay, so let's imagine that they weren't able
to be there all the time.
And James was gone days at a time. Like 2 days goes by, a day goes by, 16 hours go by, and you don't change a diaper.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be relatively close. He can't be that far away for him. Like, I mean,
this is the Air Force we're talking about.
Well,
we're not talking about like Domino's or anything.
He keeps coming back though.
He's stationed at the base.
So okay, wait. So maybe she's not living on a base.
It could be a base. I did not. There was no information. Like the only news about this is like a couple news articles and.
What you said about the 16 hours though is what you like made me think like, okay, maybe there's housed on the base, but he's away doing all that practice and shit that he has to do for the Air Force.
I'm saying 16 hours without changing a diaper.
Yeah, that's still bad. That's what I'm saying though. But he coming home like, bitch,
full diapers, everybody.
These kids dirty.
All of them. If anything, the young family was very religious, and throughout Maggie's descent into depression, she would have hallucinations and visions of a religious nature. For instance, one night, according to James, Maggie left the house for several hours to go marry Jesus.
Oh.
And then told James that the Virgin Mary was now his grandmother. Obviously, becoming clear to James that Maggie was unfit to care for the children once again, he attempted to have her committed for the safety of the family and for her own. The hospital pushed back and said that Maggie would have to commit herself. So I'm assuming this is a military hospital.
Yes, because we only can assume that this is a military base. And from my perspective, there's a lack of people. Like, these people must be really busy not to be paying attention to Maggie.
Well, a military grade mental hospital probably has like super strict rules. You know what I mean? And they're in Hawaii, so the rules aren't really. I'm not saying Hawaii is like a different place, but come on. So with the help of the church and the family doctor, Maggie was convinced to receive any help that was offered. After 6 weeks, Maggie was released from Tripler Army Medical Center back into the care of James, and the hospital refused further on-site treatment, stating that there was no more that they could do for her, and any other improvement would have to come from the home. She was released and treated as an outpatient.
I wonder how often this outpatient was checked on.
0. On Monday, November 22nd, 1965, on the morning of the murders, James was away on a mission. I said mission. I heard myself saying
You gonna make me feel myself.
On Monday, November 22nd, in 1965, on the morning of the murders, James was away on a mission, and neither of Maggie's eldest children were caring for her or the children. At 8 a.m., Maggie sent her son James Jr. to school, and then she wasted no time systematically drowning her other 4 children, starting with her eldest daughter Janice, who was 5, then Judith, 3, Jeanette, 2, and then ending with the youngest, Jessica, 8 months old.
Damn. What? On a Monday?
Yeah.
Everybody's busiest day of the week. She's just like, you know what? I got y'all.
Filling the tub up. After she finished, she walked to her son's school to bring him home. At 9:30, she drowned James Jr. too.
Oh my God. So nobody thought that was fucking sketch.
Well, I mean, your mama comes to pick you up from school. It doesn't mean that she's going to take you home and just drown you in the bathtub.
What time was school? Like
in Hawaii?
Yeah,
like
because
10:30,
what
11,
time she pick
whenever
up?
You just kind of roll in.
What time? 9:30. We talked about this.
Well, yeah,
school starts at 8.
No, she dropped him off at 8.
She literally picked him up in the middle of breakfast.
I guess she walked back home because it's Hawaii. You know,
who took him to school?
Everybody just drives a surfboard.
Where are they?
If you don't have a car, you just surf. down to the school.
Okay.
And then
you
dropped the kid off. Then went back home, just surfed back on down, and then just started systematically started drowning her.
Where everybody at? What?
What?
Boy, let me tell you what's about to happen.
I don't know. Like I imagine. Okay, so all these other children, they're at home barefoot, just chilling, because they live.
We're about to go. Mama, what we about to do, Mom?
Surf.
You going to the other side?
That is fucking terrible.
I see you.
We're about to go surfing. For real.
I'm dead ass. So this is just continuous red flags. Like, ma'am, why are you picking? School ain't even started.
You dropped your kid off already. School don't start till 11:30. It's 8.
See, we knew something was wrong with you when you dropped them off because we looked at you crazy then, and then you looking crazy now. Where you taking this little boy? Where you taking him?
So soon after the murders, Maggie called her friend Elaine Marshall, who lived in Honolulu, and asked her what the penalty was for the murder in the state of Hawaii.
I'm sorry. You said what?
They put you on a boat.
Hey.
And they just push it.
I'd be like, I'm sorry. You said what? Like I just said. You said, or even yourself when we went over this. What do you say?
Nothing. You hang up the phone and you call the cops.
Hey.
Anybody ever called me and was like, hey, quick question.
Just real quick.
I know it's early. But I need to know how's murder work here?
No. You called somebody for fucking directions. You don't ask them what the fucking
there's only
the
like
penalty
no.
for
I
murder.
looked up a map of Hawaii just for shits and giggles, and there's like 3 roads. Okay, there's
Man, that's
one
what I was
highway,
thinking about.
3 roads,
There's
and
gotta be a fucking
the rest of it is just like, hey,
sand.
What can I say?
Hey, Moana! You just hear that all the time? Moana.
After Davidson and Luna arrived and asked what was going on, Maggie admitted, quote, I killed my children. I drowned them. Unquote. Officers quickly discovered the children lying in two separate beds inside of one of the bedrooms. She was arrested, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And taken to the Honolulu City County Jail to await arraignment. But what's weird is, even though she admitted to the murder of all 5 of her children inside of the home, she was only charged with first degree of the oldest son, of the only son, James.
What?
So remember earlier that year, Maggie was in the Tripler Army Medical Center for a previous mental breakdown? Well, all of the other murder charges were eventually dropped due to her experience with mental illness. Court psychiatrists and prosecutors felt that it would be unfair to treat her as if she was basically in her right mind to stand trial.
Oh.
At the end of the trial, Maggie Young was only charged with drowning her son. I'm guessing because of the act of walking to the school to retrieve him, to drown him, gave her premeditation. Even though it was clear that she murdered her other children, she was immediately sent to the state hospital in Kaneohe. Early in the treatment, Maggie began to respond very well, but shortly after, when the magnitude of what she had done to her family began to sink in, it was debilitating for her and she began to relapse back into severe delusions. On July 25th, 1966, while on pass, Maggie was on a unsupervised walk along the hospital grounds.
Stop. Wait. Why is she getting a pass to do anything?
She was getting better.
No, it's one of those yay,
it's Hawaii,
right?
Okay?
No, it's
pretty as fuck.
Oh, okay.
Maggie
go ahead.
Okay.
I want to know what Maggie did on that pass. Go ahead.
Maggie hung herself in a chicken slaughter shack.
Oh. Okay. So let's give this
chicken slaughter shack. It's 1965. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. So you gotta, you want some fried chicken, you need a chicken slaughter shack.
I get it.
Uh,
I guess
Maggie
that was
went
like
to a
one of the
chicken
jobs
slaughter.
in the prison. She's like, hey, you're on laundry, you're on dishes, you're in the chicken slaughter shack.
That'd be fucked. That's how you know that you don't
Like,
like.
bro,
You
I've
don't
been
like
in the
me.
chicken slaughter shack 3 days in a row.
I'm done with this shit.
I am done slaughtering chickens at the mental hospital.
Yeah.
This is the prison.
It might
This is
not.
a hospital.
Okay, so at this mental hospital, being in the chicken shed probably ain't the worst thing.
I feel like they could have put it somewhere else. Maybe outside
Hey,
of the mental
hey
hospital.
Maggie, go get a chicken so we can fry it.
There might have been just like a overpopulation of chickens, and like
Go pluck that
every
chicken.
block you go is like
Well, that's
Jake's
you know
Chicken
what?
Slaughter
There you
Shack.
go.
Like,
There you go, right there. So for Thanksgiving, we're gonna have a big ass chicken. They ate chicken, Rashad.
no, you don't eat chicken on Thanksgiving.
You don't, but they had hella chickens
If
because
like
they had
somebody showed up with
slaughtering sheds.
KFC on Thanksgiving, I'm like, you better get that shit out of my house.
Get out of here. Get him out of here.
All right, so let's.
All right.
Maggie had hung herself from the rafters of a chicken slaughter shed.
It's fine.
Nurses would say that after the suicide, Maggie was getting better, but as she got better, the more realization of what she had done began to set in, and she was doomed from there. So, should have doctors allowed her to remain delusional as to not agitate the delicate mental state of Maggie? Should the state be allowed to recognize an illness and treat based on what they think is necessary? Need I remind you that Andrea Yates still remains on suicide watch to this day?
I was wondering if she knew about this woman, or is this just history repeating itself over and over throughout all these untreated mothers? Like, do they have this dream? Does one just get a dream of drowning their children and they do it? Because I can honestly say that I haven't thought about drowning Brielle and Kennedy.
Okay,
All right,
let's talk about it.
I haven't had that dream yet. So,
You said yet.
I did.
Okay.
Don't
No,
quote me on
it's
that.
fun.
You can quote me on that. Whatever.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Well, then don't quote me on it, because I don't think I'm gonna have that dream. I feel like my subconscious and all that good shit, my psyche. I think it's fine for now. It's fine.
So James Young would later move away from Hawaii and remarry, but he didn't have any more children.
Oh shit, I don't blame him.
This case was soon forgotten until 2001 when Andrea Yates drowned her children in the same fashion as Maggie Young. Trina Shapiro, a reporter from the Honolulu Star, wrote an article about how similar the cases were and brought the old case into new light. James, 72 at the time, reached out to Russell Yates through a news article written by Shapiro and wrote, quote, "We need to recognize postpartum depression with psychosis earlier and successfully treat it. We must do whatever we can to prevent another mother killing her children," unquote. James followed the Yates case and was disappointed with the outcome of Andrea being charged with murder, but is pleased with the treatment that she has received. In correlation with that case, we will cover the Andrea Yates case because of the fact that it's just so close. Like, I'm so sorry.
You can't talk about this case without thinking about Andrea Yates, who...
Andrea Yates was born in Hallsville, Texas, and she was the youngest of 5 children. She suffered from bulimia during her teenage years. She also suffered from depression, and at the age of 17, she spoke to a friend about suicide. She graduated from Milby High School in 1982 and was the class valedictorian, captain of the swim team, and an officer on the National Honor Society. Yates completed a 2-year pre-nursing program at the University of Houston and graduated from the University of Texas School of Nursing with her bachelor's. From 1986 until 1994, she worked as a registered nurse at the University of Texas. In summer of 1989, she met Russell Yates, 2 months her junior, at the apartment she was living in Houston. She was into him, he was into her, So they started dating soon after, and shortly after that, they were introduced to Michael Warnecki. He basically ran his own church ministry, if you want to call it that. He's kind of significant and kind of not. He comes up later, but it's kind of like he's clout chasing with the media. And she's kind of into what he's talking about. He's got like these absurd ideas of Christianity, but you can believe what you want. It's a free country. He spoke in public events, but like he was crazy with it, and the whole family was involved. And they traveled the world, spreading their own Christian beliefs. Russell and Andrea soon moved in together in 1992, and they were married April 17, 1993. They announced that they would seek to have as many babies as nature allowed and bought a 4-bedroom house in Friendswood, Texas. Their first child, Noah, was born in February 1994, just before Rusty accepted a job offer in Florida. So they relocated to a small trailer in Seminole, Florida. December 1995, their second child, John, is born, and by the time of the birth of their third child, Paul, Rusty is adamant about Andrea staying at home and him do all the work. They moved back to Houston in 1997 and purchased a 350 square foot GMC motorhome. This is where the Warneckis come back into play because they sold them the motorhome. The Warneckis advised Rusty that he was working too much and advised that he cut back on his worldly possessions. So shortly after that, they move into a bus with 3 kids. That would drive anyone crazy. Following the birth of her 4th child, Luke, Yates became depressed. She was breastfeeding, she was not sleeping, and she was alone most of the time. On June 16, 1999, she's found shaking and chewing on her fingers, like her actual fingers, until they were bleeding. She calls Rusty and tells him to come home. He gets there and he doesn't know what to do, so he takes her for a walk. The next day, she attempts to commit suicide by overdosing on pills. She was admitted to the hospital and prescribed antidepressants and diagnosed with major depression. Soon after her release, she stopped taking her medication. She begged Rusty to let her die as she held a knife up to her neck twice in 1 week. She wasn't feeding the kids because she felt like they were eating too much. And she also thought that cameras were in the ceilings and people on the TV were talking to her. Once again hospitalized, she avoided shock treatment and she was given a cocktail of medications including Haldol and another drug called Zyprexa, both antipsychotic drugs. The 2 big ones have serious side effects like permanent twitching, so she was taking drugs for taking drugs at this point. This gave the dead look on her face, like when she was depicted to the media. She finally found a balance and then things began to improve rapidly. Her condition improved so fast that she was released, actually. After that, Rusty moved the family into a small house for the sake of her health. In July 1999, Yates suffered a nervous breakdown which culminated in 2 suicide attempts and 2 psychiatric hospitalizations that summer. She was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis. In August, she requested off all of her medications. Yates's first psychiatrist, Dr. Elaine Starbranch, testified that she urged her and Rusty not to have any more children as it would guarantee future psychotic depression. They conceived their 5th and final child approximately 7 weeks after her discharge. She stopped taking her Haldol in March 2000 and gave birth to her daughter Mary on November 30th, 2000. She seemed to be coping well until the death of her father on March 12, 2001. Yates then stopped taking medication, started back self-mutilating, and read the Bible feverishly. She wouldn't eat, she wouldn't sleep, she was hallucinating. She stopped feeding Mary, she began to pick at her scalp until she bled. She became so incapacitated that she required immediate hospitalization. On April 1st, 2001, she came under the care of Dr. Muhammad Zahid. She was treated medically poorly and then released. Doc put her on all kinds of drugs once again, some drugs she had already been on previously, and they didn't work. On May 3rd, 2001, she degenerated back into a near catatonic state and filled the tub in the middle of the day. She would later confess to police that she had planned to drown the children that day, but decided against doing it then. She was hospitalized the next day after a scheduled doctor visit. Her psychiatrist determined that she was probably suicidal and had filled the tub to drown herself. The one thing Dr. Zaid did do right was instruct Rusty not to leave her unsupervised, so on June 20th, 2001, when Rusty went to work, his mother was supposed to be at the house 1 hour later. After calling the police, she then calls her husband Rusty and requests that he come home. He replies, "Is anyone hurt?" And she says yes. And then he says, "How many?" And she says, "All of them." 2 officers arrive and ask what's wrong, and this is when she admits that she has drowned all 5 of her children. Like, WTF? Anyone? Rusty arrives shortly after, and he's fucking devastated. He's like running from window to window looking for her, but she has to be taken out the back door so he doesn't see her, and she's taken to the police station in downtown Houston. She confesses to investigators that she has drowned all 5 of her children in the bathtub. She starts with Paul, age 3.5, then Luke, age 2, moves to John, age 5.5, and then laid them all in her bedroom. Then she moves on to Mary, age 6 months, and then she leaves Mary in the tub to retrieve Noah, age 7. Noah discovers Mary's body in the tub, and then he attempts to run, but is caught and soon drowned, also in the same tub. Noah and Mary are taken out of the tub, placed in their bed, and Andrea puts Mary in John's arms. She is completely fucking insane. Like, her voice in the interrogation is like she's talking about a normal day. She's not crying. She's not remorseful. She sounds tired. She looks tired. I feel like if they had a commercial for postpartum depression, Andrea would be what it looks like. In a press conference, Rusty is sympathetic for Andrea, stating that she wasn't in her right mind and this incident was a psychotic side effect from her depression. After the murders, Andrea is placed on antidepressants and antipsychotic medicines and underwent a shit ton of psychiatric tests. When she started coming back to reality, she started opening up, telling psychiatrists why she did it.
Trying to accomplish what you did, take your children's lives.
Maybe in their innocent years, God would take them up.
God would take them up to be in heaven, is that what you mean? All right. And if you had not taken their lives, what do you think would happen to them?
I guess they would have continued stumbling.
And where would they end up?
Hell.
In hell. What sort of things did they do which showed you they weren't right?
Well, they weren't, just did a lot of silly stuff and didn't obey.
Didn't obey you when you told them to do things. All right. You mentioned their manners before. Can you give me an example of their manners?
When Rusty's mom would visit, they would not treat her well, call her names.
Be disrespectful. Okay. Now, you concluded that they were not righteous, and you're a religious person, and explain to me what you meant by not being righteous.
Well, they didn't do things God likes.
February 2002, the trial starts, and expert witness and psychiatrist Park Dietz says that she got the idea from Law & Order, the TV show. In response to the claims, the show says that the episode in question never made it to TV. She pleads not guilty by reasons of insanity. Texas law states that in order to get the insanity defense, the defendant must prove that he or she could not tell right from wrong at the time of the crime. So, 3 counts of capital murder later, for the drowning of Noah, John, and Mary, she is sentenced to life with the eligibility for parole in 40 years. For the next 2 years, she's put on suicide watch twice for not eating. Her attorney, George Parnham, files for her appeal while Rusty is getting a divorce. So 6 months later, her case is reversed, and 3 months later, March 2005, the divorce is finalized. January 9th, 2006, Andrea Yates pleads not guilty by reasons of insanity again and goes to Rusk State Hospital for psychiatric treatment. By June of that year, Andrea Yates' retrial kicks up, and she gets the insanity plea and is ordered to a mental hospital. 6 months later, she's transferred to Kerrville State Hospital in Texas, and that's where she's been since. So, both women were on serious drugs. We don't know what drugs Maggie took, but Andrea was taking drugs for taking drugs at this point. Both made phone calls immediately after the crime, basically admitting guilt. So they knew they did something bad. And what's weird is they both chose the bathtub method. Some differences are Yates was placed on suicide watch several times while Maggie was not placed on suicide watch after, seeming like she was getting better. Andrea also homeschooled, and Maggie, I'm led to believe that Maggie did the public school system because her oldest son was in school. So there's a couple differences there. Both husbands in the stories, they're away from home, and they were both probably encouraged to not leave these women with the children alone. And both husbands made efforts to not have the children left at home with the mother, if you want to call them that. So if you hear any other similarities, don't be a stranger. You can find us on Instagram at Blood and Fire Water Podcast, Twitter at BFW Pod Squad, and Facebook at Blood and Fire Water Podcast. So some good news to clear the air of all this murdery stuff. It's my birthday month, and my birthday's on Thanksgiving this year. So if you like the show, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You don't have to say anything. You can just hit the 5 stars and be done with it. If you want to reach out to me and, maybe start a discussion, you can also reach out to me at our email at bloodandfirewater@gmail.com. Stay alert and stay alive.